I'm here today with my Bobcat E10 mini excavator, and it's about time to do some service on it. I have my 10-hour greasing, and I want to check the fluids and everything. I'm getting ready to put this machine out in the woods to do some more work on my trail system. I've been building a mountain bike and hiking trail for about 2 years now, and I want to kind of get back on that. So the machine's going to be in the woods for quite a while. So before I put it in the woods, I thought I would do the service here in the shop. So I'm going to show you today like how to grease this thing and check the track tension and check all of the fluids. And then later I'll make some videos on getting out in the woods and then doing the actual trail work, cutting a bench cut. But first, let's see if we can get this thing greased. There's 19 grease zerks on this little machine. 17 of them you have to grease every 10 hours, and there's 2 that you have to grease every 50 hours. But it just so happens I'm at my 50-hour mark right now, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how I grease all of them. The first thing I do on each grease zerk before I try to stick any grease in it is wipe them off to make sure there's no dirt, little specks of dirt or trash in these little check valves here. These things are always full of grease, and they get pretty grubby. Or if there's a little speck of material on top of this check valve and you try to force grease in it, you'll shove that down into the check valve. This one looks particularly dirty, so sometimes I take a little pointy thing like this and try to clean it out. Make sure that the check valve spring is still working. Another thing I do is when it gets packed with grease like this is I take a little screwdriver and just try to get some of that grease out. These grease zerks down here particularly get clogged up, so I always stick my screwdriver in there and get that stuff out before I wipe it. Make sure it's fairly clean. So like I said, there's 19 grease zerks on here. I'll show you where they are. We have 6 of them just on this knuckle in the front. We have 1 here, and 2 on the other 2 pins here and here. And then we have 3 on this pin here. 1 at the top, 1 here, and 1 here. So that's 6 total for just for this. So in addition to these 6 grease zerks, we have 1 on the end of each cylinder. 1 here and 1 here. And then on the boom cylinder, we have 1 here and 1 here, and then 1 here and 1 here. So in addition to those, right here where you have the pin between the stick and the boom, there's 1 underneath. And sometimes I forget this one because it's kind of hidden, but it's way up in here. Now over on this end, on the boom swing, we have 1 here and we have 1 underneath. We have 1 on the top of the boom swing and then 1 under here. These 2 are the ones that you have to grease every 50 hours, and that's to grease the carriage swing. So when you spin around with the upper housing, that's how you grease that upper housing swing. Also for the boom swing, we have this one, which is on the end of this cylinder. Now for the blade, we also have 2. 1 on each end of the cylinder that makes the blade go up and down. So there's 1 here and 1 back here. I am using this Milwaukee grease gun, which is battery operated. It makes things go a lot quicker. But I want to show you for greasing in the field, I carry a manual grease gun on the ropes. So I just took a piece of PVC pipe and hose clamped it to the ropes, and then I just stick that in there, so that way I always have grease with me. It comes in handy. I think these 6 grease zerks on the bucket are the most important because they get the most use. That bucket is constantly articulating and wearing that grease out, whereas articulating or swinging the boom, you don't do it that much, so they're not quite as important. But we want to make sure that this end of the boom is greased really well where the bucket articulates. I also like to wipe these things off after I grease them so that grease doesn't trap dirt. Now the way you know you have enough grease in there is while you're greasing it, watch these joints. And when the grease starts oozing out on either side, that's when you know you have enough grease. Okay, we have a few more down here. Let's see if we can get that one that's underneath first. Now what you have to do on that carriage swing is you have to apply grease in one position and then swing at 180 degrees and apply grease again. I guess that's to get the grease all the way around. But before I do that, I'll go ahead and get those ones on the blade. All right, let's go ahead and swing this thing around. Almost forgot. There's 2 more. Right here where the boom meets the carriage. Okay, the oil dipstick is down here. We just pull it out and give it a wipe. And I'm well within the marks. Here's coolant. As you can see, it's already on the fill. Now checking hydraulic fluids is kind of complicated. As you can see, there's a little red ball floating in some hydraulic fluid. But it's not as simple as just looking at it. You have to put the excavator in a certain position. All right, to check the hydraulic fluid, I'm going to read what it says in the manual. Put the machine on a flat, level surface. Retract the arm and bucket cylinders. Put the bucket on the ground. Lower the blade to the ground and retract the tracks. Stop the engine. The fluid must be at the center of the sight gauge. So that's quite a few things we have to do. But anyway, let's go ahead and do that and we'll see where we are. If you're curious to know more about how to retract the tracks, check out my channel. I have a video just on that, retracting and expanding the tracks, and it'll go into it in more detail. So this is my understanding of these instructions. Retract the arm and bucket cylinders. So I call this the stick, I guess they call it the arm. So this cylinder has been retracted. The bucket cylinder has been retracted. The bucket is on the ground and the blade is on the ground and the tracks have been retracted. So let's go ahead and check that fluid level now. All right, so as you can see, the little red ball is floating in the middle. So now we have to check the track tension. So to do that, I have to raise the tracks off of the ground. The manual says to measure the track sag at the middle track roller. The distance between the bottom of the roller and the top of the track should be 0.51 inches, so a half inch. A half inch. Okay, so here's the middle roller. This should be about a half an inch. That's a half an inch. So this is good. So this is about how much tension you should have in the tracks. Let's go ahead and check that other one. That's close enough. It's about a half an inch. I know a lot of people have trouble with track tension and throwing tracks, but I have no trouble on this machine with that. I've only thrown a track once, and it was when I was in the woods and I was up on a rock or a root or something like that, and I made a funny turn and it threw the track off. It wasn't due to not enough tension. I just put the machine in a bind and got the track off. But I've never thrown a track other than that. So next thing I'm going to do is track it out in the woods. I may make a video about how I get out to the place that I'm working in the woods. It's quite far out. I have a lot of obstacles and rocks to go over. All right, if you like this kind of thing, if you like excavators, or if you're interested in trail building, I want to invite you to watch my videos, and please give me a thumbs up. I like making these videos, and I like to hear from you guys, so if you can leave me a comment, it's much appreciated. All right, guys, I'll see you soon.